I used to think that being single meant that there was something just wrong with me. Like, if I didn't have someone, I missed the mark. But somewhere along the way, I just realized that no one teaches you how to be single and happy. Everyone teaches you how to get into a relationship, though. Everyone teaches you how to find a man, though. But no one truly teaches you how to just be single and plain happy. All the advice you see out there is about finding the one, leveling up your dating life, or how to attract a good man. What about learning to just enjoy your own company? To actually feel full without waiting for someone else to complete you. What about that? What about talking about the part that there's a lot of sacrifice that you need to do when you're with someone? And I get it, you may be a hopeless romantic where you just desire to have someone, and there's a small part of you that just wants to find someone. And I think that's completely okay. But can we put aside that desire for this video and just talk about the other side of being single and how to just enjoy it? Because what are you going to do while you're waiting for someone? And you better not just be sitting there waiting for that person. What can you be doing in the meantime while you have that desire for that someone? I just see too many people pause their whole life waiting for that person, let it affect their emotions because they can't find that person and they're so frustrated. I have friends who are in awesome relationships, but guess what? When I talk to them, there's a lot of sacrifice and there's a lot of arguments that comes with it and disagreement and a lot of compromise, a lot of it. And it always puts me back in check and it reminds me that there's nothing greener on the other side. As much as we think there's something better, based on what everyone is telling you about relationships, I can tell you there's nothing greener on the other side. And let me tell you, sometimes I will listen to these conversations and I'll tell myself, oh my God, I don't know if I could put up with that. I'm not gonna lie, I've become so single that I've become so connected with myself. I've gotten to appreciate not having any arguments or disagreements, not having to prove myself and not compromise. I'm sorry to say, there's some stuff I see some women do and I'm like, I couldn't do it. I've gotten to enjoy my own peace and being in my own element and in my own energy. I can truly say that. And before you say, oh, but Nakia, you can't be all alone. You need people in your life. You need to have someone there, companionship. What if you get old? What if I get old? And that's what friendships are for. Some of you guys are so focused on finding a man, it's like you put having friends out the window. Learning to be single can become such a healing place once you stop fearing it. A lot of not wanting to be single and wanting to find someone so badly, usually it comes from fear. Fear of being alone, fear of never ever finding someone, the fear of not meeting expectation of family, right? Because we have to talk about that. A lot of expectations around there. And just getting frustrated with not finding the right person. I can't tell you how many times that drives people nuts. I've seen a lot of women go crazy. How come I can't find anyone? And then they get frustrated and they get depressed with themselves and disappointed in themselves. It's all mixed in with the fear of not finding someone that you're seeing someone else getting the exact thing that you want. But I found that once I got over the fear of being alone and not having someone, like actually accepting and not feeling like I always have to change, that something is wrong with where I am right now, things got easier. It's so healing to learn to just be and learn to accept where you are. And not constantly looking at the next thing that you think you should have. And always telling yourself and reminding yourself what you don't have. And you ever notice when people find you're single, the first thing they'll say, at least in my culture, is, oh, but what about if you get old? That's their fear of being alone. Because there's a lot of women out there, as much as you want to see people talk about it as a bad thing. Or you're going to have many cats. So what if you have many cats? If anything, your mental health may be way better with many cats. People will project their fears on you and make it sound like there's something wrong that you're doing. And the part they don't show you is the women who are in their 50s and 60s and they're living their life to the max. They are living their best life. And when you talk to them, they're usually the first ones to tell you don't get married. Okay, they're usually the first one to say, hey, enjoy your life. Talk to any older person, they'll tell you they do not miss it. Because especially if it's the wrong person, it is not worth it unless you get the right person. and you get a really good man, it is not worth it. You're not really missing out if you're living your life to the fullest. And you've learned to connect with yourself, and you learn to create a awesome circle that lifts you up and that inspires you to live your best life. So you may be questioning, okay, but if I stay busy, how do I navigate being single? Is it really just staying busy? It's not about just staying busy so you could avoid dating and you could avoid thinking about a man. Because we all know that's the hardest temptation is most people, when they're wanting to date, is because they feel lonely and they haven't got to a point where they've learned to be in their own element. And some people may say otherwise. Well, Nakia, I've learned to do that, but I just want someone. Fine. But it's not just about being busy. It's about taking the time to truly get to know yourself. Because what happens when you don't have anything to keep yourself busy? You're always going to keep on going back to the very thing that you've known to do and never actually learn to just be with you. There's a beautiful gift to know what you like and what you don't like. Connect with yourself that you haven't in years. Because if you stay busy and never truly connect with yourself, was that really worth it? Because what happens when you just want to rest? Then you're going to automatically want to go back to try to find someone, because that's the solution you've always go back to every single time. It's about learning to be alone and entertaining yourself. And if you have an issue with this, you have to ask yourself, why are you afraid to sit with yourself? What is that about? I went through many years not truly getting to know myself, not having any hobbies. My life just evolved around finding someone. That's all I thought about, and all my actions were dedicated to that. It was just consumed with that. But it's all about that shift once you start consuming your life, instead of just dating, just consuming your life with the things that you just enjoy and just getting to know yourself. You'll find that you'll think in less and less of finding someone. It will stop being the first goal in your life, and you'll start to see, oh, there's other ways to have fun. You'll start getting a new revelation. But I know what you're thinking. Okay, I'm trying to be content, but it's hard not to compare myself to people in relationships, especially when it looks like they're having a ball, Nakia, especially on social media. Every single time you try to compare yourself, remind yourself that your journey is completely unique. And that's their story. You have your own story that's being written and is currently being written by God. All yearning and comparing does is reminds you of the lack in your life. It reminds you of what you don't have and what you're currently trying to get that you can't get. Because by this point, if you're there, you're pretty much frustrated and you're over it. Do you know that there's someone out there that wishes that they were in your very shoes right now? I remember the first time I heard someone tell me that, I just laughed. I was like, no one wishes to be in my shoes while I'm single. It blew my mind because I don't think I ever thought that someone would wish that they were in my shoes who was married. In my mind, I used to always think, well, if they're married, they got it all, they're good, they have their person. But it never really dawned on me to think like that. It gives you a different perspective. I would say now, where I am at, where I'm no longer in that desperate state of trying to find someone, oh God, thank God. Now I can look at it and understand. There's someone, believe me, who wishes that they can go home to peace, where they have no arguments, where they don't have to constantly compromise, where they don't have to constantly give themselves to someone who's selfish, who doesn't deserve it. There's someone out there that wish they could just go back and never get married and just do all the things they wanted to do. There's people out there who are in relationships that wish they could go back when they're single and live their best life. They regret waiting. They regret just putting their life on pause for that. My first experience was when I was doing pottery. I was enjoying it so much, and then I just got this whole revelation. And I was like, wait, I didn't think about dating once while I was in pottery. I didn't think about finding a man once. I actually got to enjoy the moment, and I wasn't worried about the future. I was just out with friends. That's what I realized, that if I'm doing things I enjoy, being single gets easier. The only reason why single gets hard is because that's the only thing that you're focusing on. So if that's the only thing you're focusing on, it's gonna get harder. Because then you get more desperate and more lonely. It's like you have this narrow view of how your life is going. But then once you start expanding and doing things you enjoy, all of a sudden your view just expands and you're like, oh, there's other fun things to do. I could actually be happy without searching. Being single gets hard in your solitude if you're not doing anything you enjoy. Do you have an ex that you used to talk to that you cut off because you were like, he ain't for me? Now, what do you do when you're on your singles journey, you're learning to be in your own element, and then he contacts you? Because they always come back. Whether that's a year from now, couple years now, months down the line, they always come back. And then what do you do when it feels so tempting? Because someone's giving you attention that you low-key want, that you haven't had, but you're in the journey. Here's what you do, because before I knew the exact thing I'm about to share, I always got sucked back in and was like, you know what? I'll give him a chance. I miss him. If you know what you know, they never change. You put yourself back in that situation, and then you wish that you never let them back in your life, and you're like, why did I do this to myself again? I've had many conversations like that. I'd be like, why did I let them back when I was at peace and I was healing? So here's what I do. I speak it out loud, and I ask myself, why did I stop talking to him again? What didn't you like about him? And listen, I start answering those questions. Oh, I get mad all over again and get turned off all over again. And I'm like, oh, that was the reason why I stopped talking to them. And that usually sets me straight. And then when someone random man wants to come into my life and just jump back in, especially when you're all alone at night, hey, that's real. I will walk myself through it again. I'm not joking. I literally give myself a pep talk. And I remind myself, a lot of the times the reason why we let people back in our lives, especially as women, is because we only remember the good times. And the trick is we have to reverse it and remember those bad times. Because there was a reason why you stopped talking to them. There was a reason why you started running away from them. You have to slow down and ask yourself questions before you act. Because if you act first, you're gonna end up making a decision where you wish you didn't climb back into. Remember, there was this guy where I stopped speaking to him. Surprise. He wanted to try to come back with it. Hey, how's it going, Nakia? I've been thinking about you. Yeah, okay. And you know what I did? I took some time. And I remembered all the times where when I just met him, he wrote a long paragraph of all the things he didn't like about me. And we just met. And I remind myself, when I went on a date with him, as soon as I got home, we got on the phone, he was so like disrespectful, talking sexually. And when I would tell him, that's not how you talk to me, he'd be like, oh, I say whatever comes in my mind. And I'm like, oh, so you do that with your mom too? And your kids too? We know where this is going. And let me tell you, when I started thinking about it again, all the emotions come back again. And I was like, oh no, thank you. Guess what? Left them on red. And I believe that if I didn't take the time to slow down and walk myself through it, I would be like, hey, I'm good. And you? And that's another thing is when you start working on yourself, it gets so much easier to ignore people. You get better at not people pleasing. You get better at saying no because you start to appreciate where you start to enjoy the silence and no drama and the disgusting feeling you feel when people try to make you feel icky. You know what I'm talking about. It gets easier to ignore people who's trying to come into your space, who's not meant to be there. Because you don't have that desperate tendency anymore because you're working on yourself. You're starting to connect with yourself more. Learning to be single and really comfortable with yourself is about going out, whether that's at night in the day when you don't feel like it. When you feel like just staying home and just being like, I just want to lay down. When you feel embarrassed about being single and doing something by yourself, that is the time to do it. I went to this place called Tilt in Toronto. My friend ended up being late. I was sitting in a car waiting in the parking lot. And I remember there was a point where I was contemplating and I was like, man, should I just go back home? Or should I continue to wait? Or what should I do? Or should I go inside? But there was a little voice that was telling me, yeah, but you're all alone. Everyone's going to be with their friends, blah, blah, blah. And it still happens. I still have to walk myself through it sometimes. And I remember there was a turning point where she messaged me and said, Nakia, I'm going to be later than what we anticipated. And then there was something inside of me, right? Some type of motivation was like, go inside. Just go inside. And I'm like, okay. So I went inside. And let me tell you, I had the best time by myself. I was playing Nintendo games, felt like a child again. And I remember as I was playing all these Mario games and all that stuff, I remember thinking to myself, why don't I do this more often? And you know what the funny part is? There were a lot of people who were alone there just chilling. like playing arcade games, and no one was staring at me. I did business. I was playing all those pinball games and all that. I didn't care. Eventually she did come, but it was so freeing to have that time by myself. I was so happy I went in and didn't torture myself waiting in the car for her for a good hour. Have a sense of purpose, whether that's in the morning or night or after work. Figure out what your purpose is apart from just going to work. This is very important because when you feel like you have a routine and a sense of purpose, you know you have things to do, you are less likely to be dwindling up your thumbs and being bored out your mind and do things that you know you shouldn't be doing. So you have to figure out. No one's going to figure it out for you, okay? No one's there to figure out how to make you feel comfortable being single. What lights you up? What do you like doing that helps you when you're feeling depressed and down? What do you look forward to doing when you're having a long day and you are just tired? And don't tell me you just want to go and take a nap. That's not going to make you fulfilled, maybe temporarily. It's not a long-term solution. I found that once you start filling your things with things that you enjoy, things you're learning, whatever that may be, by the end of the day, by the time you get home or by the time you're doing all those things, you don't have any time to go on a dating app. You have no energy for that because you're busy consuming your time with downtime, with playtime, whatever that is. Now, what if you don't know what you like or don't enjoy doing anything anymore? What do? You're gonna have days where you just don't feel like doing anything and you ain't inspired. That's just real, and it's okay to feel that way. I have days like that. I have days where I don't feel motivated to do anything. And those are the times that it's important to be very kind to yourself and listen to how you're feeling. I've had plenty of seasons where I'm very inspired and plenty of seasons where I'm not inspired and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like being around someone. Now, I've gotten to know myself now for myself, and this is where you need to feel connected to yourself, is you have to understand when it's really you don't feel like doing anything and when it's you just have to push yourself. Because I found that usually when I push myself to just do the thing that I enjoy, even when I don't feel inspired, I feel so good when I do it. And I'm like, man, I'm so happy I pushed myself. You know that feeling. So you have to understand when it's time to push yourself and when it's time to just be like, okay, let's be kind to myself and just rest in that. Once you get connected to yourself and you're completely okay with where you are and you're very contented with being single, and now, it doesn't mean that you don't have any desire to be with someone, but you get to that point where you're just contented where you are. You can handle those days where you're not doing anything on a weekend and you're just resting and chilling and taking it easy. But I found that when I wasn't connecting with myself and I didn't have plans, it would drive me crazy because I didn't know how to just hang out with myself. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. But if you're in a place where you don't know what to do, join a Facebook group where people are socializing and meeting up in your local city. Find accounts on Instagram where women meet up. There's a lot of accounts like that now where they're creating a lot of social events. And eventually what happens is once you start interacting with those type of things, you're going to start seeing sponsored posts where Instagram's going to be throwing all these events at you. It's quite cool to see. You're going to have options. You're going to be like, oh, what is this? Go to game nights, man. Pottery. I say pottery because now they're popping up everywhere with studios, and it's one of the easiest things to do, and it's a very nice activity that you don't have to go with friends. You can literally go by yourself and enjoy yourself. Find a workshop to do. Learn something new. Join your local community center. They usually have a lot of classes going on for the community where you could sign up at nighttime and go after work. And you'll be surprised, even when you go alone, you'll start to speak with people. It's just natural. And you'll see other people who are open and want to socialize with other people. You'll have such a great time. And that's how you get to know what you like, is you have to try new things. If you're just staying home, you're not going to get to know what you like. It'll be very hard. Like, you can only be in your mind so much. No one's going to be there to save you and tell you what you like. You have to figure it out. You have to take the initiative and figure it out. Shoot, now you can even go to the dollar store and buy those paint by numbers and paint by yourself and bring it home and paint. Buy a puzzle. There's stuff out there, even if it's low budget. What do you do if you're struggling to make a single friend and it's been many years? And this is where you're gonna have to navigate and learn how to be alone, because there's just some things that take time. You may not make friends right away, especially if you've gone years with no friends and now you're trying to build your social circle. In the meantime, you're gonna have to learn to navigate being alone. And it's a beautiful thing because once you learn how to just be you and connect with yourself, other people will see that. And you're gonna see that you'll naturally start to attract people. You'll naturally see that people just be attracted to speak to you and get to know you. It's a beautiful thing working on yourself. The key thing is being natural and being very intentional, and and this may be hard for some people, is asking people to meet up. I know it's hard. If they say no, you have to remember it's not the end of the world. And putting yourself out there, like what we talked about, and doing things that you enjoy doing. But in the meantime, you're working on building friendships, and you have to remind yourself that it's not overnight. You're not gonna see this big change overnight. You spent many years alone. Now you have to spend that time learning to socialize and navigate and put yourself out there and be uncomfortable. Because most likely, you may be very introverted. It's not gonna feel good. You may feel like you're gonna puke. Your stomach is gonna be in so much knots, and you're like, oh my god, I have to go outside and put myself out there because I'm so nervous. Seasons always change, and if you're in a situation where you're trying to find friends, it's never like that forever. Even if you're struggling. If you took time and made a goal and said, you know what, once a month I'm gonna ask someone to go somewhere, or once a week I'm gonna ask someone different, or once every 2 weeks I'm gonna ask the same person to go somewhere, maybe it's brunch, something for an hour, 2 hours, and you're consistent with it, you'll start to see a friendship build. And eventually they'll start asking you out because they see that you're putting in effort. And when you're meeting new people, whether it's in a group setting, that's actually way easier, is don't go with any expectations. Just be yourself. And please don't be one of those people that say they want to do something because they're bored. Be intentional. The more you stay in contact with people, actually, it gets way easier. When you let it get too long, that's when it starts to get awkward and it gets harder and you get in your head. But if you stay in contact, even if you don't meet up, but you met them once, and then you just contact once in a while and say, hey, just thinking about you, just wanted to see how you're doing, maybe we can meet up, blah, blah, blah. People appreciate that. Because a lot of people are not doing that anymore. People get so caught up in their lives that people don't check up on each other as much as they did before. Show yourself evidence and remind yourself what you have accomplished while being single. Especially during the times where you actually feel like your life is lacking because you don't have someone and you wish you had someone. Remind yourself of all the things that you're doing, that you're having fun with, all the good moments, all the friendships you're building, all the things that you may have not be able to do if you're in a relationship. I got this idea from Naomi's dating series on TikTok, and I thought it was very different. Now, I've done this, but in different ways. I've done this more so for mindset. So let's say if I had a limiting belief where I said I couldn't do something, I would then write my thoughts and say, well, I can do this because blah, blah. So I've done this in other ways, not just for being single, but just in life in general. And it usually works because it shifts your mindset. So if there's that day where you're like, oh, I wish I had someone and I could go here, you may be asking yourself, well, why can't I go here? And show evidence of times where you've gone out alone, or you went to a group event, and think of all the emotions you had and how you felt. And then you'll be like, oh, like, I'm fine. I've been doing just fine being single. And then all of a sudden that feeling of feeling like you absolutely have to have someone will start to go down. It'll quiet down every time you remind yourself all the things that you're accomplishing. Because it sucks being in that mindset. Because it sucks feeling that way. That's the reality. It sucks when you're wanting something so badly that it's something that you really can't control, right? Because you have to meet the right person, all this stuff. But if you remind yourself of all the things that you're doing right now that is making your life full, it makes all the difference. Learning to be single is a superpower. Because once you start learning to be alone, you start to stop caring about what other people think about you. You start doing things that makes you feel good and puts you first. It's an opportunity to get closer to God and build your relationship because you have so much time. If I don't feel like going somewhere, I simply tell my friend, I don't feel like going, I don't want to go. You're allowed to change your mind. And there's no guilt. I don't have any guilt. When I tell someone no, no guilt. I cancel if I want to. I will straight up tell a man, I'm very comfortable single. So if you think I'm lonely, that ain't it. I'm not the one to play with. I will drop a guy like it's hot and not have a care in the world because I've learned to connect with myself and I'm not willing to settle for just anything. When I wasn't comfortable being single, it was way harder to drop a guy and I wanted to cling on to any guy that gave me attention. It's dangerous. That's why you'll see a lot of guys don't like when you're single and you're learning to embrace it. Because once you embrace that, let me tell you, all the standards go up. And you start not putting up with things that you would have put up before when you felt lonely and desperate. Because you get to a point where you're so connected with yourself, no one can break that connection. No one. It's almost like you start to be your best advocate. And you start to be protective. You start to be a protector of your space. It's powerful. And there's people out there that look at it as a bad thing where they say, oh, the longer you're single, the harder it is to meet someone. But it's not that. It's because you get to a point where you're not willing to pull up with any bull. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're protecting your space and you get really picky of who gets to come in your life. Where before anyone was coming into your life, running in there, to and fro. A lot of times women are not picky about who comes into your life because their main focus is just, I want someone. I just want someone to be there. I just want to find that person. So any guy that gives them any sweet sayings in their mind, they believe it. And you just can't let anyone come in your space. You cannot be so disconnected from yourself in protecting yourself that you let anyone come into your space. Nipsey Hussle said this. Would you rather be in peace with the world and in war with yourself, or in peace with yourself and in war with the world? You could decide which one you would rather. You get the opportunity to create beautiful thoughts about yourself when you're single and catch things that are not so healthy. Sometimes there's so much noise out there that you don't get to focus on yourself. You don't get to have a true relationship with yourself. You get to wake up to a version that you want to be. That is your choice. You can take way more risks when you're single, especially when it comes to dreams and doing things that you want to do. I heard from a friend the other day where they had to decline a really good opportunity because of certain obligation. I think it was the right decision for them. It wasn't meant for them for many reasons. I couldn't help but think to myself, you see, there's just certain things you could do and risk when you're single that you cannot do when you're in a relationship. That was my first thought. Sometimes we take that for granted, of all the things that you can get done, all the things that you could accomplish, all the opportunities that you could take. We take it for granted. I've taken so many risks. And I always tell myself, I know full well that if I had a family, I wouldn't be able to take half the risks that I've taken throughout my life. So if you're in your single era right now, I just want you to know there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're not behind, you're not late, you're not forgotten. You're just learning to love yourself on a deeper level. And that takes courage, my friend. This season of being single isn't a punishment. Get that out your mind. It's preparation. It's peace. It's power. So date yourself. Discover who you are. And don't rush the becoming. If you needed this today, let me know in the comments. Or send it to someone who's in their single season right now and needs to hear it. You never know who might need this reminder.